When I tell people that over 80% of all of the food that I eat comes from fat, they think that I eat coconut oil on a spoon, or drown my vegetables in oil, or feast on French fries, and that's not the case. So I wanted to introduce you to what a high-fat eating style looks like, what I eat on a daily basis when I'm eating meat, when I'm not eating meat, when I'm eating eggs, when I'm not eating eggs, when I'm fasting, when I'm not, so that you can see just what a day in the life of a high-fat eating style would look like for you if you chose to adopt it. So the first thing you need to know is that there are basically 3 phases to eating high fat. The first is adopting a low carb, high fat eating style. The second is intermittent fasting, and this is where you are eating all of your food for the day in a 6 to 8 hour window. And the third one is carb refeeding. We're not really going to touch on carb refeeding today. That's something that I started doing about 30 days after I adopted the high-fat eating style and then went to intermittent fasting, but know that it is available to you, and I will be talking about it in future videos. For all of the recipes that I chat about today, I will include links to them that goes directly to my blog. And if you are interested in following a 30-day meal plan to start adopting a high-fat eating style, I've outlined one in my book, The Keto Beginning, which is a complete guide and 30-day meal plan to adopting a high-fat eating style for regulating your hormones and living a hot, sexy, nourishing, awesome, high-fat life. On days where I am not fasting and I am not eating meat, something that I would have for breakfast would be my cornbread waffles with sauteed vegetables and maybe a blended coffee. About 4 or 5 hours later, when I'm hungry again, I would have maybe a kale salad with sprouted nuts and seeds, apple cider vinegar blended with olive oil, maybe a bit of mustard and stevia for some honey mustard action, and shredded cabbage, which I love on salads, especially if you saute it in a little bit of oil and let it cool. Following that, in a couple of hours, I would maybe have my cream of tomato soup. It's a 5-minute soup. There's no cream in it. It's just awesome, nourishing whole food ingredients blended together and served. As a dessert that day, I would probably have a hot chocolate mousse blended with collagen and gelatin. Now, yes, collagen and gelatin do come from animal sources. I choose the grass-fed collagen and grass-fed gelatin. A lot of my vegan clients have been open to trying collagen and gelatin, even though it is made up of animal, just because that's such a pure, awesome, nourishing protein that's so great for your digestive system, great for your skin, hair, nails, everything. On days where I'm fasting with no eggs, I would start the day with my blended coffee, usually with grass-fed butter, if you can tolerate it, coconut oil, MCT oil, maybe a splash of cinnamon, vanilla, a little bit of stevia if you like that sweetness. For lunch, I am in love with grass-fed meatballs. I just mix a bunch of grass-fed ground beef together in a bowl, add a bunch of spices, roll it up, wrap it in bacon, bake it, and eat it with a cucumber salad that's drizzled with apple cider vinegar, olive oil, maybe a little bit of salt and pepper. For dinner that night, I would have shredded cauliflower topped with shredded beef. I usually just put a thing of beef in the crock pot at the beginning of the week, cook it for oodles of hours, shred it up, put some apple cider vinegar in it, and then I can have fun with it all week long with different spices and different meals. It's really easy. And then I top that with a bunch of guacamole, and that's a super filling dinner. But if I do want dessert that night, I would have something like my hemp heart porridge, which is just a bunch of nuts and seeds in a bowl. On days where I'm practicing intermittent fasting, but I am eating eggs, again, I would start the day off with a blended coffee, followed a couple of hours later with maybe 2 poached eggs, some bacon, and maybe topped on a grass-fed burger patty with maybe tomatoes, lettuce, and some MCT mayonnaise. The recipe is in my book, The Keto Beginning. Maybe some mustard and salt and pepper. Following that, in a couple of hours, I am in love with roasting salmon with some smoked sea salt and putting it on the side of a bunch of steamed vegetables. My favorite right now is blending MCT oil with grass-fed tallow. You could even use butter, and you blend it with fresh herbs and a little bit of vinegar and drizzle it over steamed vegetables. It's amazing. On that day, if I'm having dessert, it would be something like a blended herbal tea with maybe some MCT oil and some collagen. The collagen and the MCT I find really help me relax at the end of the day and make sure that I'm healing while I'm sleeping. So the foods you eat as a high-fat enthusiast. Let's go through proteins first. That would be things like eggs, collagen, gelatin, nuts like almonds, pistachios, or seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds. You have your red meats like cross rib roast, a chuck roast, a ribeye steak, you have pork belly and uncured bacon, and wild caught fish like salmon, cod, haddock. I really love anchovies, a duck, and then you have your organ meats like liver, heart, kidneys, joints for making bone broth or marrow. 6 tips for making sure that you're making the most of your protein choices would be opting for grass-fed, grass-finished meats, specifically the red meats. If you do not have access to this or it's too expensive, go for the lean cuts of meat because the toxins hide in animal fats. And don't fall victim of the pasture-raised marketing scheme because it doesn't mean anything. Another tip is opt for pasture-raised eggs. I know, not pasture-raised meat, but pasture-raised eggs, and try to avoid the omega-3 eggs as it's totally also a marketing gimmick and you'll just end up spending a lot of money on crappy eggs. Another one is fish, making sure that it's wild-caught fish. And adding collagen into your coffee is great, but make sure that you do it at the very last moment so that it doesn't wreck the proteins. Moving on to my favorite fats. These are things like macadamia nuts, avocado oil, coconut oil, MCT oil, ghee, avocado, awesome. Animal fat from grass-fed sources, coconut milk without the gums or added ingredients, and olive oil. 4 tips for making the most of your fat selection is making sure that you never heat your olive oil. Keep it for salads. Adding in oil at the end of your recipes too can help, so cook your food and then rotate in the oil. And vegetable oils should always be avoided, even the grapeseed oil that I fell victim to thinking it was healthy. And my favorite vegetables for following a high-fat eating style: spinach, kale, parsley, broccoli, asparagus, cabbage, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, celery, fennel, and seaweed is really good too. And did I say cauliflower? Cauliflower's awesome. So versatile. 3 tips for making the most of your vegetable selection is always making sure that you're eating the organic vegetables that should be organic. If you're not sure of what I'm talking about, go to EWG.com and look up their Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen lists. Also, making sure that you're always washing your produce before you eat it. And lastly, fruits. I don't eat many fruits. I do eat limes and lemons daily with a little bit of Himalayan rock salt in water. I have maybe a handful of berries every couple of weeks. I just find that the more fruit I eat, the more addicted to sugar that I get, and it's a vicious cycle. So I hope that was helpful. Now you know kind of what a high-fat eating style may look like for you. If you do eat meat, if you don't eat meat, if you eat eggs, if you don't eat eggs. All of my recommendations were dairy-free. If you can handle grass-fed butter, awesome. If you can't, that's okay. And if you need more guidance, I am here to answer your questions. And if you feel like my book, The Keto Beginning, would benefit you and even your family, I encourage you to give it a try and let me know how you feel afterward. Take care, and I will see you next week.